Hi everyone, welcome back to Pages and Screens. I'm Erin and today I'm going to be sharing with you my top 10 Doctor Who episodes. So I've been watching Doctor Who for a long time now. I've probably been watching it for just over a decade and it's a TV show I still watch today. I've been watching the new series which is coming to a close and I will admit that I am a big fan of the David Tennant, Russell T Davies era Doctor Who, and as you will see in this video. So without any further ado, I'm just going to jump straight into my top 10 Doctor Who episodes. Just to clarify, I have not seen any classic Who episodes, so I will not be including them in my top 10 today. I have only seen the Doctor Who revamp that launched in 2005, so all of the episodes I will include are from those runs on. So kicking it off at number 10 on my list, I have chosen Rose, the episode that relaunched Doctor Who back in 2005. Now this episode features Christopher Eccleston as the Doctor and Billie Piper as Rose. Rose is arguably the best Doctor Who companion that I've seen. She is loved by everyone, she is a great character. The episode Rose is such a classic Doctor Who episode and is why I had to include it on this list. It has all the common tropes of Doctor Who, the meeting of a new companion, the introduction to the TARDIS, the enigma that is Doctor Who. It has all those lovely little moments when we get a new companion to the show, which is why Rose is so good. So number 9 on my list brings another introduction to a character, or the same character but a different actor, and that is the Christmas Invasion. This is the first episode that David Tennant starred in, and this is the episode that just warms my soul because David Tennant is my favourite Doctor, and every time I watch this episode I get so excited. It's really interesting though because David Tennant's hardly in the episode as a Doctor. He is just newly regenerated and he's got a lot of built up regeneration energy, which is basically making him in a comatose state for the majority of this episode, which is really funny to see all the characters deal with in the episode. I love how 10 minutes from the end of the episode David Tennant just kind of emerges from the TARDIS and delivers this massive speech, and it is just hilarious and he delivers it so well, and I love David Tennant as the 10th Doctor so much, which is why this episode is one of my favourites. Now, number 8 on my list is the only episode that I have included from Matt Smith's reign, and that is one of the most emotional episodes that I have ever watched with Matt Smith. It makes me cry every single time I watch it, and that is Angels Take Manhattan. Oh my god, I cannot, honestly. This episode is the last episode that features Amy and Rory and their run on Doctor Who. Amy and Rory were my favourite part of Matt Smith's run as a Doctor, and Angels Take Manhattan was such a good send-off to these two characters. And oh my god, the end of this episode when they're both in the graveyard, oh, my heart is just... it's so emotional to watch, it's awful. Basically, this episode placed on my top 10 purely because of the emotional factor that it has, and that it was Amy and Rory's final episode on Doctor Who. So continuing with the Weeping Angel theme, the next episode on my list is Blink. Blink is such a good episode of Doctor Who. When I first watched this, and even to this day, in fact, I am creeped out. I cannot watch this episode when it's dark because I will have nightmares about the Weeping Angels. I'm not even going to lie. As much as Stephen Moffat has gone downhill in recent years, this episode that was written by him is one of the best episodes of Doctor Who for the horror element that it has. It is genius. This episode is so clever, and I've said time and time again that Doctor Who is not a family show. It's a horror show. It has got so many conventional horror elements in it, time and time again. And Blink is such a good example of how Doctor Who uses common horror elements to really frighten and terrify the audience. So placing at number 6 on my list is a 2-part episode, in fact, and that is The Army of Ghosts and Doomsday. This episode is probably the most emotional episode of Doctor Who that I've ever seen. This is the episode in which Rose leaves the show. And the way in which Rose leaves is just so tragic, and it's awful, it's awful. But that is not the only reason I love this episode. I'm gonna say it, I love the Cybermen. The Cybermen are my favourite Doctor Who villains of all time. I just think they're genius. They're a genius villain. They're all about getting rid of emotion and taking away your identity and your humanity. And that is something that really terrifies me for whatever reason. The scope of this episode as well is so grand. The Cybermen, the Daleks are here, there's parallel universes involved, all the characters are coming together, and then obviously at the end of the episode, Rose is trapped in the parallel universe and she has to say goodbye to the Doctor. This episode is so nostalgic to me and will remain one of my favourite episodes to this day. So the next episode on my list is just classic Doctor Who. It's just fun, enjoyable to watch. It is such a good episode and it's filled with so many light and humorous moments, and that is the school reunion. Now this episode is one of my favourites because it features Sarah Jane Smith. I love when old characters return to TV shows, and it's never better than in Doctor Who. I love old characters coming together in Doctor Who. They're always some of my favourite episodes, but this one is so fun to watch because of Sarah Jane and Rose's dynamic for the whole episode. It is so funny watching Sarah Jane Smith and Rose kind of fight with each other about who has been on the better adventures with the Doctor. It's just a great scene when they're just fighting off each other, but then they manage to find kind of a mutual understanding about the Doctor. And they start then turning against him and like making fun of his little quirks and traits, which is just hilarious to see because obviously we're used to seeing the Doctor in like the position of power. This episode's just got such a feel-good, enjoyable vibe to it, and that's why I just really love watching it. The casting's great, the characters are great, the storyline's great. It's just a great episode. Okay, so the number 4 spot on my list goes to Journey's End. This is the episode that sees Catherine Tate's exit from the show as Donna Noble. This episode is insane. I remember watching this for the first time when it aired and just being blown away with how crazy this episode is. All of season 4 has been leading up to this reveal of the Daleks and their kind of master plan to basically blow up the entire universe with like an atom bomb, I think it is, which basically means that they're going to just disintegrate everything. There are so many characters featured in this episode. We've got Rose, Martha, Donna, Mickey, Jackie, Pete, you've got Sarah Jane, you've got Harriet Jones. The list of characters that help out the Doctor in this episode is crazy. They all band together, and that is the main reason I love this episode. Oh my god, there is a scene in the TARDIS that has always stuck with me for Doctor Who. Whenever I think of my favourite Doctor Who moments, I think this is really high up there. I don't know if it's my favourite, but it's the bit where everyone flies the TARDIS. And it's just so emotional to watch. It's really moving and really touching to see that the Doctor's not alone after all this time of him saying he's the last of his kind and everyone that he has ever known died in the Time War and all this. This moment really shows that he's not alone and he has people watching his back and there are people defending Earth, and it just makes me really happy and really emotional, and like I just love this episode so much. Okay, so number 3 on my list is another 2-part episode, and that is The Silence at the Library and The Forest of the Dead. Doctor Who has this great way of combining emotion and horror, and this episode does that perfectly. The Vashta Narada are such a good antagonist again because you can't see them. I was probably, I want to say maybe 8 or 9 when I first watched this episode. I remember actually turning my TV off for one of the first times in a Doctor Who episode, and I did not want to watch it. I did not want to watch Doctor Who for one of the first times in a good few years. I was so terrified of the Vashta Narada because not only were the monsters in the shadows, but then these the explorers that were in the library had these creepy astronaut suits on, and when the Vashta Narada kind of killed them, they were left with this skeleton in the mask, and then they were still animated and able to walk, and they would have these like growing shadows coming out of them, and oh my god, it was the creepiest episode ever. Placing in at number 2, my second favourite Doctor Who episode of all time is another one that uses classic horror tropes. That is Midnight. Midnight is written so brilliantly that it had to be in my list. It is a genius episode, an absolute gem of a Doctor Who episode. And the best thing about it, you don't ever see the villain. The villain of this episode is like a copycat, and it starts to mimic and copy everyone on this shuttle. It's just so sinister and chilling to watch, because the Doctor is powerless to stop it and there's nothing he can do. And the only way that the creature is actually stopped is that someone has to sacrifice himself, which hardly ever happens in Doctor Who. Performances of the actors in this episode are some of the best performances I've ever seen in Doctor Who. They work so well together. The characters in Midnight have no clue what threat faces them, how to get out of it, and what to do about the situation. They all have conflicting, opposing opinions, and because they're in such a confined space, the tension and the suspense and the danger is really heightened, and that is such a credit to the writers of this episode. Whoever wrote this episode did a fantastic job, and the actors execute the script brilliantly, and that is why I love this episode. I'm so excited to reveal that my favourite Doctor Who episode of all time is none other than The Girl in the Fireplace. This episode is so close to my heart because this is the episode that made me a Doctor Who regular watcher. The Girl in the Fireplace is the episode that got me into Doctor Who. It's an episode that I watch time and time again and I've not gotten sick of. I must have watched it over 10 times in my life and I still love it to this day. This scene where Renette is in bed and the clock on the mantelpiece is broken and the Doctor's in the room and he goes, "The clock's broken," and she goes, "Yeah." And then he goes, "Well, what's the ticking noise then?" And then suddenly, there's a clockwork man under the bed and he like pops up and it's so scary. Like, oh, I love it so much. I just think the way that Doctor Who was written back then was just so good. And that was when Stephen Moffat was a good writer, and this episode is one of his best I think he's written. Just such a good episode, and Renette is just a great character, and I love her and the Doctor's relationship in this episode. It's just so good. Okay, so that was my top 10 Doctor Who episodes for you guys. I would love to see what Doctor Who episodes are your favourites down in the comments below if you want to leave a comment for me. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel to stay tuned for more videos soon. I'll see you next time. Bye!